It's great to have you here in the Business to Brand chat. I'm doing the brand banter early in the morning because we've got a special guest, Bayo, who is someone that I've met recently, the business coach. I'm going to let him introduce yourself, but we're going to be talking about all things competition related. It's a big part of my branding process. Once you understand a business vision, then it's really good to start understanding who the competition are, what they're doing, why they're doing it, etc. So, hi Bayo, just want to introduce yourself and say hello to everyone who's out there.
Good morning. I think it's still morning. Yeah, my name is Bayo Igoh, and as Nigel said, we met recently on the old networking circuit, as it were, Southeast London, and that's where we hail from. My background actually is in social housing. I worked in housing across the board, from local authorities to housing associations to a couple of private companies, and then very recently, 5 years ago, took the big jump to set up my own coaching and mentoring practice. And it's a practice, but it obviously is a business, because that's what pays me and that's what makes me live. So yeah, it's been good to be on this platform. Be good to be grilled by Nigel and Lucas nicely, I hope. Talk about competition.
Yeah, so Bayo, you work a lot with businesses and coach them through their business process. Before we get into maybe competition, what is the one biggest challenge that you find yourself talking with about businesses and how they go about setting themselves up and developing what it is that they do?
You know, there's many definitions for the word business, and I think some people get into doing something. You know, they were working, they were getting paid a salary, and for whatever reason they felt it was not right for them. They had an entrepreneurial spirit, they were innovative. Let's do something different. Let's set up a business. But there are businesses and there are businesses and there are businesses. Now, you and I are probably individuals delivering a business and service. That's kind of micro. And you've got to be understanding that there are people who then move out of the micro business to slightly larger businesses, and that needs different strengths, needs different understanding and perception about what it is you're trying to deliver and how you deliver it. So for me, the difficulty for business owners, regardless of the size, is why are they doing it? What is it they're trying to get out of it? And for some business owners, it's about growing a business and then in order to sell it, move it on, do something else. For other business owners, it's about providing a service or delivering stuff that they felt no one else was better at doing than them. Excellent. So it's really a question about understanding why and what it is you're doing in that space.
And that's definitely what I'd agree with. And last week, that's why we were doing the why, you know, the why, the vision. So we've got our why, we understand why we're doing it and what we want to achieve, and starting to think about how we're going to do it. How important is it to consider competition? What do you talk to your clients about in terms of competition?
Quite simply, got to know what someone else is doing. You know, you're entering into a market, and I don't know, you're selling shoes, but you know, what shoes are you selling? What type of shoes are you selling? How much are you selling them for? Is someone else doing the same thing? Are they doing it at mass on scale? Have they got a different supplier? Or they've got different? You've got to understand. So in my world of housing, we call it benchmarking. What is it you're doing that somebody else isn't doing, and what is it they're doing that you could try and do better? It's about having what I call capital intelligence, social intelligence, capital intelligence about what is it and how is it they're doing it and what can you do better. If you're just going to be insular about everything, you're not going to grow, you're not going to be innovative, you're not going to really understand the customer's needs. So competition allows for that. Competition allows for a high street to have one shop that is as good as or better than the other, or more shops that are catering for a certain clientele or a certain customer. And that is based on you doing your due diligence, working out what I'm doing, what you're doing, what somebody else is doing, and how best I can do it better than everybody else. Or moving to a different market space.
Yeah, and that's what positioning is all about, finding that space in the market. I mean, I often talk to businesses about, you know, do you want to stand out from the competition or blend in with the competition? Obviously, if you're blending in, it can be quite difficult to be distinct, but you tend to be going into a market that pre-exists, that people understand. Whereas if you want to stand out from the competition and stand to one side, it can be quite hard to get people to understand who you are and what you do. And I think that's, you know, that notion of positioning against the competition is what I'm really focused on from a brand point of view. And do you think your business owners, entrepreneurs understand that when they, you know, they've set their vision? Do they understand it in those sort of terms?
Not in the main. And I'm guilty of that. For example, I set up a coaching and mentoring practice thinking, look, I'm a great coach, I'm a great mentor. That's all that's needed. But actually, there are other great coaches and mentors out there who are equally or probably maybe better. What you then need to understand is, where are you delivering that service and to who? So you then try to work out what's your niche, what's your speciality, what's the need. A mutual colleague of ours will tell you, APS, what's your audience, what's their problem, what's their solution? And then you start to work out how you look at how the competition might be delivering that. And then you say to yourself, I can tweak that. I can deliver it slightly differently. I can deliver it slightly better. You just take the pandemic, for example, and how we've all shifted onto an online platform. So lots of people are doing it in different ways, at different expense, having garnered or looked at what the competition is doing. But there are still people who are trying to create that more boutique element of online engagement. So as a coach, I prefer one-to-one, where I can really work with that individual, and then in between the sessions, supply them or engage with them in different ways, which is not purely on the online basis. So it's really, what I'm trying to say is, it's once you've identified your market, you still need to see what else other people are doing and how you can tweak it for your customer so that they feel that they're getting something different. Because what competition does do is allow you to understand what the customers really want in terms of their satisfaction, their needs, their problems, their solutions.
Really good point. And that's why I've done competition first. And next week, we're going to be all about the audience and the competitors, because we've had a look at competition this week. It was really interesting because in the group, I posed this question, you know, if you see a competitor that's copied what you're doing, do you feel flattered or do you feel a bit flipped out by it? And quite quickly, most of the people that posted, and someone I've spoken to recently, they were all really concerned about people copying their IP. I know one of my friends had to take legal action on that. I've always been of the opinion that it's really hard to copy what someone as an individual is doing. So what would you say to someone who, you know, should you share what you're doing, or when should you share what you're doing? Should you protect it, or is it really a bit like, I'm a bit laissez-faire, I've got to be honest about it.
I don't want to get into the legalese of intellectual property and all of that stuff, but one of the big things that is born out of the pandemic is collaborations and partnerships. So my stock answer to that is yes, you need to share. You need to work with others so that you can identify where you can complement each other, because nothing is really original. It's about how you can adapt and improve what's being put out there. But I think if you share information, and it depends on what industry you work in as well, I suppose. If you share information, that's actually better for the customer, for them to make an informed decision on what's out there. That's my opinion. If you're so, I don't know, clammy about it, then how do you know what you're doing is really that good?
Well, this is
how you tested it.
Yeah, this is my point maybe a little bit, and I felt generally quite sad and concerned that people have had those experiences, and I think you do need to have that level of protection. But as you know, I think I'm a big sharer of stuff, and I feel it's good to pass this stuff on. Interesting, Lucas is in the room with us. I don't know if he's going to come on live, but we were chatting earlier about his guitar tutor. Lucas, do you want to tell us about your sort of, obviously it's like the passing down of the guitar tutoring stuff from your person that taught you to what you're doing now, and the way that competition.
I started teaching guitar full time. So I suppose quite early on, but I don't know, over 20 years ago now. What am I now, 44 or something? And my guitar teacher was really cross. And I suppose it's because suddenly there was someone else teaching in the local area or something. But actually I've had now 3 of my students go on to be guitar teachers. And I think it's one of the, you know, I'm prouder of that than, you know, possibly anything. To be able to teach someone well enough that they can then go on and teach other people, you know, I think something to be proud of. And I've always tried to be as, you know, as nice and to get on with all the local guitar teachers that I can. And, you know, some of them are a bit funny, some of them don't like it, but I would just rather be, yeah, when I think about what sort of person you are to get grumpy at other people that are doing the same thing and to steal their stuff, I would rather be the person that's open and gets their stuff stolen than the person that like is grumpy and steals stuff. And I just think in myself, I'm far more comfortable doing that. And I just think generally I've done better from being like that.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely had that experience. That, you know, our business, when I set up my first business, we were from a business that lots of people went off and set their business up. The sort of owners and directors knew it, and it was almost they were cultivating the next generation of designers. And then when we had our business, many people then went and set their businesses up, and there was a sort of pride in it. We got into trouble once because a client wanted to work with us, not with the original agency, but there's nothing that, you know, we could do about that. So I think, you know, we're sort of saying that a level of competition is important. Being influenced by what other people are doing is important, but just don't steal people's stuff. I mean, that's not really good at all. I mean, maybe just to wrap up, Bayo, I know that you've got kids. Are they competitive?
Yeah.
And so, how does that manifest itself?
Competition is good. I'm of an age where you went to school and you did sports, PE, or whatever you call it, to compete. And I like my boys to compete, my sons. I don't like them fighting. I'll make sure that fighting is not the same as competing. But if you want to have a game of snakes and ladders, or you want to have a game of chess drafts or whatever, the objective is not to draw. You can't draw, or you can draw, but it's not. The objective is not to draw. The objective is to win. But with that comes some social morals about how you go about winning, not cheating, not taking a piss, not bullying. So, but competition, I think, is good. And I'm just going to go back to that point of sharing as well. Sharing is about learning. Content that we put out there, particularly in the modern world, online, is about what you can learn from each other and or the service provider. Because you're not actually going out there, so you put that online as content. So sharing, competition, content is all good. Competition is, so in a household with 3 boys, 9, 7, and 7, yeah, tell me about it. They're telling me that I can't use my office to have this interview. Yeah, but competition is it's about growth. It's about learning. What's your max? What's your minimum? What can we do? What can't we do? And if we can't do it, how can we learn to do it? So the eldest, by 2 years or 18 months, physically, probably mentally stronger than his 2 brothers, but boy, are they catching up. Boy, I can't wait till they're 13, 14, 15, when the physicality is kind of the same. It'll be interesting to see how they work with each other. But it's about learning. And because they're brothers as well, it's about backing each other up, understanding how far they can go, and then giving them confidence. And I think that's what competition does as well. Once you grow, once you learn from what you've done, mistakes or failures and what other people have done, it gives you confidence to be innovative and to be different and stretch yourself to deliver a better service.
That's brilliant. So you've got, you know, obviously your big O, there's little o, and little o. And soon there'll be just big O's all around, and the competition will be quite intense, I suspect.
World domination. You'll see Bigo Tower.
Bigo Towers, fantastic. Well, it's been really great to chat to you about competition. Obviously, go back into the chat and leave details for how people can get in touch with you. My final question, and get back into the business stuff, is what's your favourite brand of trainer?
I knew you was going to ask that because I saw you.
Yeah.
Okay. To be honest, Diodora. The best ever trainers ever made were Diodora Borg Elite.
Yeah.
And I'm famed for wearing those. Cool.
Because it's really interesting. I mean, it's really interesting. I find that, you know, when people talk about competition and looking at, you know, what other people are doing, or not being comfortable looking, or not liking that other people have looked at theirs, you absolutely know that the big brands like Nike and Adidas are buying each other's trainers, opening them up, taking them apart, sawing them in half, looking into them. And I think, just maybe as a final thing is that obviously some of those really big big brands end up going to acquisition to kind of buy each other. You mentioned buying and selling of businesses. I think Adidas have just decided that they're going to sell Reebok again now, having bought it to own that part of the market, know that it's not really that worth it, and they're getting rid of it. And I think there is that element to knowing what competitors are about and then actually either swallowing them up or ignoring them that can happen in big businesses. Have you had any experience of sort of from a smaller business acquisition point of view and how competition has helped?
For me, no, because I do deal with the micro, the solo entrepreneur primarily. However, I'm working with a client who is looking to sell within 2 to 3 years, and that's growth. So we'll talk about value building. How do you build your organization up so that your IBTA is such that it's a multiple to be sold at? But see, some people go into that straight away, that the idea is that their business is going to be grown to be sold. So it's a different mindset. It's a different process to be followed. Whereas for me, it's about how I can deliver services as a coach and a mentor to the best of my ability by learning from my mentors, from my coaches, from my peers, so that the service I give gets better and better and better. Will my sons become coaches and mentors? To be discussed. What does Bigo Tower look like? To be discussed. But right now, it's about me learning to deliver my trade to the best of my ability. Some people do that with the view that it will lead to big growth, which will lead to a big sale.
Fantastic way to end it. And thanks so much for joining us today to talk about competition. Thanks, Lucas. Good to see you as well. I'll see you later with my fixed guitar, and I'll see you next week, everyone else, to talk about audiences, and drop comments and questions into the feed if anyone's watching along live. Have a good day, everyone.